Hey guys, welcome back to Budget with a July Dreamer. My name is Miranda, and on this channel I share everything personal finance. I cover budgeting, saving and investing. If these topics are of interest to you, then please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get in today's video. So in today's video I want to combine my love of travel with my love of budgeting. So in today's video I want to share with you how I budget for my trips, especially now that I have resumed my usual traveling, and I'll be almost every single month I am abroad, which I know I am very privileged and I'm thankful for that. But I also want to share with you that this is not something that I just wake up and do. This has taken years of saving, discipline, and also advancing in my career. So that has helped a lot, as well as having side hustles, which, you know, extra money is always needed. And for me, all extra money 90% of the time will always go to my traveling. So I have my trusted laptop here where I have a very simple budget tracker that I use for my travels. Then I have this travel journal. This is my favorite travel journal. It just says the time is now, which is so apt. I love this. And essentially what this book has, it's literally, I'll show you a blank one before I show you what I actually wrote for my travel. So literally on the, I don't know if you can see it, but I may need to take a picture actually. I think I'll just stick to taking a picture because I'm filming in front of my French window so I can get natural light. But on this side, it just says travel plans, and it asks for your location, the travel date, the weather, places you want to visit, where to eat, things to do, things to remember. And then here on the right hand side, so this side, right for you, right for me, left for you, left for me, right for you. On this side is just travel notes. So this is where I write down all the notes, and I have been using this since my, let me see, my first trip during COVID times to Zagreb last year. So I wrote down everything that we needed to do in Zagreb. I don't think you can see much, to be honest, because it's so bright. I'm using natural light, so I'm not complaining. But so I have Zagreb, everything that I needed to do to prepare for this trip. So I did the same thing with my recent trip, and that was to Belfast. And I will go through, I'll try and take a screenshot of this and put it on the screen so I can you can see exactly what I'm looking at. I'll do both a blank page and a page where I have written down things for the trip. So the other thing that I have is my trusted notepad. So for those of you who watch my videos, you will remember that I do have a couple of notepads that I use. The one that I used to show a lot, I've just used up all of the pages, and I've moved on to this one, and I absolutely love it. It's just aligned. Oh, let me see, where have I not written anything here? It's just really aligned book, so there's nothing special about it, but I do love the front and the back of it. It's got sunglasses. I love coffee at the bottom, which is very apt for me, and just three girls in front. So this is my new notebook where I have also written, because I take this with me as I travel. So how do I plan my trips? It's very simple, really. Even when I'm doing spontaneous trips, and I think because I've been using this for so long, for me it's second nature, but for somebody it may take time to actually plan and think about their trips. So one thing I want to say is, first, I have a travel fund. So every single month when I get paid, I put money into travel fund. Some I share with you within my budgeting, some I don't. I keep them separate. And because I do have a travel fund, it does allow me to just wake up and go on a trip. So do a lot more spontaneous trips than many people, because 90% of the time people need to plan, save for these trips. But like I said, I'm privileged and I'm in a fortunate position to be able to just wake up and go somewhere that I would like to go to. But in normal instances where I need to plan for a trip, I use the notebooks. and I use my trackers as well. So what I want to do is, beyond having a travel fund that obviously you can call upon when you want to travel, let me show you how I actually do my budgeting and the tracker. And I'll give an example of my recent trip to Belfast. So I'll show you what that looked like, and then we can get back to discussing. And I'll also try to enter some numbers in here of my Belfast trip. So let me start the screen record now. Okay, so this is a very, very simple budget tracker. I write on the left hand side the trip where I went to, where I'm planning to go to, just simple budget tracker, I call it here. And then I have various categories. Now I adapt the categories according to my travel needs. So if I'm doing a spontaneous trip to mainland Europe, I will need flights, or if I'm taking Eurostar, obviously, so I need transportation. Now if I'm taking flights, I also look at what is the distance between the airport and my accommodation. So if it's somewhere where public transport I can get to and I'm arriving during the day, then I would take public transport. If I'm arriving like super early in the morning or late at night, I normally prefer to either Uber or get a taxi or book in advance, so whichever, like do a private hire and have that ready. So that's what I normally do. So I think about the flight or the transportation to get to the destination, and then from the destination to the hotel. Then I think about the accommodation. What type of accommodation am I looking for? So am I looking for a hostel, which I must admit, now that I'm in my 30s, hostels are not banging anymore. I love my peace and quiet, and I love meeting new people, you know, sharing the experiences. But to be honest, as a solo traveler, I also like my peace. So this is why I prefer to just stay in hotels. I'll do Airbnb every now and again, but I'm more hotels than anything, to be honest. So I'll think about the type of accommodation that I want for that trip. Then the next thing is airport parking. So for me, I live about 2 hours away from the airport, and 90% of the time I would much rather drive to the airport than take public transport. This is more to do with when I come back from a trip. I hate, and I know hate is a strong word, but I really do dislike having to wait for public transport and then, you know, get on it and then, you know, drive all around the country. I live in the countryside, so all around the countryside and then get home. And for me, if I take public transport, I do have to get a train and another train or a bus. So I still have to get on a train first. So it's either 2 trains or 1 train. It really depends on which type I choose to take to the airport. So it's all of these things that I have to think about. This is why for me, I always prefer airport parking. So 90%, if I'm choosing to travel, I will also have airport parking for my car. Then obviously, if I'm going to drive, then I need fuel, which for this trip to Belfast, I did need to fill up. Okay, so we are living in roller times, so let's not forget that. But obviously, if you're in the UK, you know that jokes, but you know, they're trying to kill us with all of these not canceling PCR tests, not requiring them, quarantine being useless as ever. But you know, just it's all of these things. But if you're traveling during these Rona times to a destination that will require you to do PCR tests, you need to obviously account for those. Normally, when I don't have those, my budgeting tracker is very small unless I've got specific itinerary that I need to follow. So for me, I always put in COVID test, so that is pre-departure, at the end of the trip when I'm at my destination, and also when we used to have, you know, when you come back, you would be required to do like day 2, day 5, or day 7 of your trip. So this is what I implemented in my Rona Times budgeting tracker. So this is what I included. But obviously, Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, so I didn't need to do any of this. Then food, I break it down into 3 buckets. So I want for breakfast, if it's not included as part of my accommodation, hotel accommodation, so it's something I will budget for. And then for lunch, it's always important for me to have lunch. Sometimes because I'm traveling a lot, I'm trying to explore a lot more places, I find myself just like grabbing a lot of snacks. So this is why I've put lunch snacks, because that's what I normally do. And then for dinner, Obviously, when I get back to my hotel, it depends on the type of hotel or accommodation that I'm staying at. Then I either have dinner at the hotel, or if I need to cook myself, if I'm staying at an Airbnb, then I would have bought some stuff before I returned back to the Airbnb for that day when I finish my exploring. So this is what you will always see in my budget trackers. Then activities, because whenever I travel, I like to do both paid things and free things. Obviously, we all love free things, but there's certain things like, you know, if you're not going to a museum, you probably need to buy like a city card. So allows you free access to all the museums and all of that jazz. So I always think about that. This is one of the things that even if I say, okay, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, whew, do you know what? I feel like going to Luxembourg. I'm going to do that investigation on my way to the airport if I'm not driving, or before, as soon as I book my flight, then I'll look, oh, how much does it cost to visit museums? Is it recommended to buy a city card as opposed to going to each and every single museum? So those are the kinds of things that I think about. So activities, so, you know, visiting museums, other historical sites, all that we have to pay for and all of that jazz. Then miscellaneous, because every budget needs miscellaneous, and I think I mention this every single time in my budgeting videos. Every budget needs miscellaneous, and I always include miscellaneous in my budget. So this is what is normally covered in my travel budget. So what I'm gonna do now is, because I wrote everything down, I am going to start entering now into the tracker so you can have a look at how I spent the £300 that I had planned to spend. If you've seen my Transfer Tuesday that I filmed this Gone Tuesday, then you would know that I obviously overspent, and I explained in that video why. So let's say the first part is for a flight. Now, I paid £3.50 for a flight from London to Belfast, Northern Ireland, and this is because I had travel vouchers. So I was able to use travel vouchers, and that just meant what was left was like a little bit of tax to pay. So I paid £3.50 with that. But then on my way back, we have been having such weird storms in the UK. I think right now we're on Storm Franklin, and because of that, a lot of my flights got cancelled, and then the airline I flew with didn't have any available flights for me that day. I needed to come back. It was a whole mess. So I ended up going with a sister airline to the initial airline I booked it, but I had to pay for that flight, which meant I had to pay another, what was that? I had to pay, I'm trying to see, sorry, I wrote all of this down. I had to pay £61.54. So I was £5.04 over what I had initially budgeted. Accommodation, I did not budget anything because I went to see my friend. So obviously zero for accommodation. Then for airport parking, obviously I did say that I'm going to park at the airport, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up spending, how much did I spend for parking? I spent £67.99, which is a lot, but that's what I wanted to do. Then for fuel, so in my normal budget, I used I had already topped up my car before the trip, so I didn't actually need to top up my car again, so I didn't spend this money, but I'll show you how I spent this money in the end. So no fuel, and again, we'd already said there were no COVID tests that needed to be done for this trip, so nothing. Breakfast, everything was provided by my lovely friend, but then for lunch, I decided to treat everybody that I was with on that day for lunch, and that cost £54.10, and I had obviously staying with my friends, so nothing for dinner. Even though for lunch I actually overspent, but if you think about it, I did allocate £60 to food, so I didn't actually overspend. If you think about it, overall for food, I'm fine. Activities, there was only one activity we did that I needed to pay for, and that was we visited the aquarium. Everything else we just walked around just to see it, and we spent more time catching up. So this is not a trip where I had gone specifically to see the sights. I had gone just to see my friends. So I only spent £11.75 for activities. Then miscellaneous. Now, with miscellaneous, we did a little bit of spending, and what I'm going to do is in breakfast, even though I didn't have to prepare anything for breakfast, when I arrived at the airport, early in the morning, I decided to get a coffee and a bagel, and that cost me, actually I don't need this, £5.85. That's how much I had to spend for this, which obviously wasn't planning on it, but did end up happening. And then I stayed at a hotel before my trip, so I spent £18.45 for that. And then also, like I said, I stayed at the hotel, so which meant I had accommodation, but not accommodation destination. This is accommodation before the trip. This is purely because my flight to Belfast was at 6 a.m. in the morning, and my 30-plus-year-old self is done with 6 a.m. flights that I have to do. I have to wake up. If I had left for my 6 a.m. flight from my house, I would have had to have gotten up at 1, showered, left my house by 2 so that I could be at the airport, but parked my car by 4, and then or checked in before 5 and what have you. Boarding was like 5:50. So your girl was not about to do that, so I decided to stay at a hotel, and that cost me £48.60 for the hotel stay. So what else did I do? And I also had to park at the airport, at the hotel. So I need to add this in. I would add it, actually let me add it in miscellaneous, because obviously this is something I completely forgot to plan for, so I'll put it under miscellaneous. So I paid £12. Heathrow has introduced this new thing of where whenever you park at Heathrow or drive through Heathrow, you have to pay. So I ended up paying that twice for coming in and going out. $5.30 plus $5.30. It's a pain, but it's the price we pay for using Heathrow. I think that is it, right? $5.30 twice. I have got my breakfast in there. What else? Oh, and when I was in Belfast, I ended up needing to get a taxi because it was so early in the morning when I arrived. So me and my friend agreed that I'll take a taxi to get to her place. So yep, and that's how much I overspent. I already said in my video that I overspent, in my Transfer Tuesday video, I overspent by £13.78, and that's exactly what it is, because my initial budget was £300, but because of circumstances that happened, I ended up having to spend more than what I had actually budgeted. So this is how I normally do my travel budget. Now, if you are wanting this tracker, I can share this for free. It's not something that I'm charging for this tracker. It's because it's very easy, very simple to use, but I literally live by my notebooks because I write everything down. I write exactly what I spend on, how I split my money, everything. I am that, you know, when it comes to documenting my budget. Like I said, I wanted to combine in this video my love for travel and my love for budgeting. So I always think of a budget for all of my trips. I do have another trip coming up in the next, I think, 4 weeks. In the next 4 weeks, I have a trip, and I have budgeted for that already. And I am excited for that trip, and I hope you found this video useful. Please leave some comments below if you have any questions about how I plan my trips and the budgeting and all of that jazz, and also share some of your tips as well, because I see we're almost at a 19-minute mark, or is it 18-minute mark? I'm not really sure. So this video has gone on for too long. I'll end it here, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.